Hello, welcome back. It's day 14 of the Alcohol Experiment by Annie Grace. I'm just reading to you from the Alcohol Experiment by Annie Grace. My name is Melissa O'Malley. You can learn more at alcoholexperiment.com, or feel free to reach out to me. You can join my group. But let's just hop right into it. Each day we start with a quote. This one is from Deepak Chopra. It says, "In the midst of movement and chaos, keep stillness inside of you." And I love that. That's like my goal for all of my clients, is to be able to find center and feel secure enough in their center no matter what is going on outside. So it's a good one today. A bit of a longer one because we have an ACT exercise at the end about parenting and alcohol. But let's get into it. You've probably figured it out by now. This whole experiment is about mindfulness and becoming aware of ideas, thoughts, and actions that used to happen without your conscious knowledge or approval. It's easy to feel weak or hopeless when we keep having urges and desires to drink, especially if we give in to them. At this point in the experiment, awareness is the actual goal, not total abstinence. Want to hear some good news? Becoming aware of your urges, even if you give in to them, can have a positive effect on how you respond to those urges days or weeks from now. When you stay present and mindful during a craving, you might be able to resist it in the moment. But even if you don't, you're still helping yourself in the long run. Numerous studies show that when you try to repress or ignore an urge, you're actually making it worse. You're making it stronger. So instead of running from it, turn toward it and face it head on. Dive in and roll around in it. Become aware of all the feelings and emotions and physical sensations you're having during the craving. What is happening in your mind and in your body? I like to use a technique called surfing the urge. This technique was developed by Sarah Bowen, PhD, and Gordon Allen Marlett, PhD, research scientists at the Addictive Behaviors Research Center at the University of Washington. Originally designed for studying smoking addiction, it works well for any craving or urges. Bowen and Marlett gave a group of smokers a new package of their favorite cigarettes. Then they asked the smokers not to smoke for 12 hours before the study. By the time the group came in for the study, they were desperate for those cigarettes. Instead of giving in to the cravings right away, the researchers asked them to sit and do some very specific things. Look at the package of unopened cigarettes. Then wait a few minutes, being mindful of how they felt. Open the cellophane. Wait a few moments. Notice how they felt. Smell the cigarettes. Wait. Take one cigarette out and hold it. Wait. Take out a lighter. Wait. Light the lighter, but not the cigarette. Wait. You get the point. The participants were present and mindful of their thoughts and feelings during each step of a process they would normally perform unconsciously. Disrupt the cycle. Neurologically, you're physically disrupting the craving cycle in your brain. It is possible to separate yourself from your addiction. And the more often you do it, the easier it becomes and the less tightly the addiction will grip you. And it works even if you give in. Those smokers all had that cigarette at the end of the study. They satisfied their cravings, which might look like a failure. In the following 24 hours, there was no real difference in their smoking behavior. But by 48 hours later, those smokers had cut back their cigarette consumption by 37%. It happened naturally and without struggle. They no longer lit up the second they felt the urge. And over time, it had a positive effect on how well they were able to resist those cravings. Today, think of your craving as a wave. It builds and builds, applying more and more pressure until it peaks. Then it gradually subsides until it disappears for a while. Similar to how the size and severity of an ocean wave depend on the weather and other environmental circumstances, your craves will depend on the stress levels and other factors of your life. Sometimes your crave wave will be small and manageable. Other times it will seem like it's crashing down on you and you're powerless to resist the undertow. No matter how powerful the urge, mindfulness is key. At whatever point you notice the craving, ask yourself these questions. What was I thinking right before the craving started? What was I feeling? What was my emotional state? What am I thinking and feeling right now? How does my body feel physically? Am I nervous, sweaty, anxious? Are these thoughts and feelings true? Would I feel better not thinking these thoughts? Don't try to stop thinking them, just ask the question. You're tickling your subconscious, that's all. As a detached observer, you might find the next craving is a little less intense, or you might find you can resist it for an hour, long enough to distract yourself with something fun. I'm not suggesting you should give in to the cravings, especially during the experiment. I am suggesting that even if you do have a drink, this technique is worthwhile because the positive effects on your brain and behavior build up over time. Day 14, journal questions. Remember, all the wisdom you seek is actually inside you. The most important words in this experiment are the ones you tell yourself. Take some time and answer these questions in a journal, a voice memo to yourself, or simply by speaking the answers out loud for only you to hear. 1. Mindful cravings. At whatever point you notice a craving, journal through these questions. What was I thinking right before the craving started? What was I feeling physically? What was my emotional state? 2. Uncovering judgment. What judgments and condemnations of yourself come up when you are craving? Do you judge yourself as weak, broken, different? Write down all the judgments and just get them out of your head and onto paper. 3. Discovering truth. Have a look at each point on your list of judgments and ask yourself, is this true? Are there other reasons for my cravings? Perhaps how alcohol works in the brain, or maybe we're just tired? Write until you find a place of acceptance and compassion for your craving brain rather than judgment and condemnation. Mindfulness, it's everything. Okay, we have ACT number 7, which is called Alcohol and Parenting, aka Mommy Juice. Awareness. I remember so many times when I told my kids, no, you can't have a sip. That's mommy juice. In fact, it's become such a well-used term that wine marketers have actually branded a list of wines, a line of wines, mommy juice. Both my husband and I were absolutely convinced that alcohol was a vital and necessary part of parenting. I remember getting him a Father's Day card one year that said, quote, "It's not drinking alone if the kids are home," unquote. Let's name this belief. I need a drink to handle my kids. But whether you're a parent or not, this section is incredibly powerful because what we're actually talking about is stress. Drinking to relieve intense stress. Parenting happens to be one form of stress that millions of people share, and the alcohol industry has latched onto that and targets parents, especially moms, as a market segment. So, if you're not a parent, read this through anyway and substitute your stressors. Maybe you're a college student trying to get through a rigorous semester. Maybe you have a high pressure career. Whatever that stress is for you, the same addictive processes are happening in your brain. Before we dive into deconstructing this belief, I want to tell you a story I learned from Alan Carr. He's an addiction expert who specializes in helping people quit smoking. He talks about a deadly meat-eating plant from the islands of the South Pacific called a pitcher plant. If you're an insect flying through the jungle and you catch a whiff of its amazing smelling nectar, you're instantly attracted. You fly in closer, perch inside the rim, and start to drink. It's so tasty, and you're so focused on drinking that you don't notice the gradual slope under your feet, and you begin to slide down toward the center of the plant. But you've got wings, you can fly out anytime. Just a couple more sips and you'll be off. The nectar is intoxicating. Why not enjoy it? You deserve it after all. Like all drinkers, you think you're totally in control and can leave at any time. But the slope gets steeper and steeper, and the darkness closes in around you. You try to stop drinking and fly away, but it's too late. The pitcher plant has you completely in its grasp. Eventually, you stop drinking long enough to look down and make out a pool of dead bodies floating in the liquid. You're not drinking nectar. You're drinking the juice of other dead creatures. You are the drink. As disgusting as that story is, and it is, it illustrates a point that we don't talk about enough. Alcohol is addictive, not only to some people, to all people, and we need to understand that something as innocent as having a glass of wine to get through making dinner for the kids can end up becoming a huge problem. The only way to get out of the trap is to avoid it altogether. And the only way to do that is to understand that alcohol is indeed a trap. Oftentimes, addiction takes hold when we use the substance to relieve stress. And in our society today, there aren't many things more stressful than parenting, especially when the kids are young. Clarity. Do you believe you need to drink to handle being a parent? I totally did. I thought I was relaxed and more present with the kids. I thought if I had a glass of wine, I could play their games longer. Where did this come from? If you start paying attention, you'll see the messages all around you. The alcohol industry has targeted parents in a major way. From TV commercials to movies to social media memes. You can't scroll through Facebook for 15 seconds without seeing a post about alcohol and drinking to get through the day. We are telling ourselves this lie that we need to drink to deal with the kids. Here are some of the placards I've seen recently. This margarita tastes like I don't even have kids. The most expensive part of having kids is all the wine you have to drink. Motherhood, powered by love, fueled by coffee, sustained by wine. Wine, the duct tape of parenting. Mom's Happy Meal, a Xanax and a bottle of wine. Dear children, you whine, I whine. Homework, turning parents into day drinkers. Alcohol branding has gotten out of control with wines like Mad Housewife, Mommy's Time Out, and Mommy Juice. Marketers are actually targeting stressed out moms with a substance that's only going to make things worse. Humorous Facebook pages and websites such as Mommy Needs Vodka and Hurrah for Gin are growing in popularity. This segment of the industry has seen a 25% surge in sales, which is huge growth. Parents are getting the message loud and clear. It's socially acceptable to drink away your stress. The message is always presented as funny, but it's not. More than 40% of mothers say they drink to deal with parenting stress, and 30% say they've witnessed another mother drinking excessively on a play date. As I write this, my heart breaks thinking about two women who emailed me in desperation because if they didn't stop drinking, the court system is going to take away their children. These are smart, successful women. They volunteer, they have powerful careers, they help out with the PTA, and they're in big trouble. One of them received a DUI with her kids in the car. I know one mom who woke up from a blackout, and the last thing she would remember was being on a play date with her toddler. She had no idea how she got home or how she had gotten her child into his crib for nap time. Talk about scary. Holy fuck. Parents are becoming so addicted to alcohol that they risk losing their kids, and we're making jokes about it. As heartbreaking as that is for the parents, it's even worse for the children who have to witness their parents' embarrassing and dangerous behavior. It's worse for those little boys and girls who have to leave their parents and navigate a strange new world on their own, all because their mom and dad couldn't get it together. This is harsh, I know, and I want you to understand that it's not funny. I also want you to know that it's not your fault. If you're a parent and you drink, you are in the pitcher plant. You probably feel like you can fly out and it's not a big deal, but make no mistake, you are sliding down into the pool of decay. But once you understand what's happening in your brain when you drink to relieve stress, it's easier to resolve the cognitive dissonance around drinking and kids. And once you do that, you'll be able to push off and fly away from the temptation. So let's look at the internal evidence first. Are you okay with how much you're drinking as a parent? I know I wasn't. I justified it. I made jokes about it, like the memes we see on social media, but I knew deep down it wasn't right. I can remember thinking, how would we drive to the hospital if we had to? We're both drunk. I've heard countless stories of people who grew up with parents who drink. They were all so embarrassed by their loved one's behavior that they swore they'd never be like that. Yet they come to me truly not knowing how they've become their parents. They're repeating the exact same behavior they witnessed as kids and they feel powerless to stop it. The statistics on alcohol and child abuse are tragic, but maybe you're not that bad. Maybe you only have a drink or two every now and then when the kids are particularly challenging. Children are incredibly perceptive. When you say, "Hold on, honey, I'll play with you as soon as I get a beer," they pick up on the subtle message that the drink is more important than they are. What words are you using with your kids, and what messages are you sending them? I can remember my own son telling me he didn't like it when my lips turned purple. That was a sign to him that I was changing into someone he didn't like, someone who was only half there. Children were Children report that when their parents are drinking, it's like they aren't really there. They're distracted and only half paying attention. We tell our kids that this is mommy's juice and to do as we say, not as I do. But it's human nature to want what we can't have. So by withholding this magical liquid from our kids, they're being trained to want it more. Studies show that children who grow up seeing their parents drunk are 3 times more likely to have problems with alcohol and drugs. They have more eating disorders, and they're 4 times more likely to suffer from depression. Some parents offer sips of alcohol to their kids to prevent the forbidden allure, but of something for grown-ups. But research is showing that these same kids are actually more likely to drink as adults. We're subconsciously conditioning our own children to believe that they cannot handle life without alcohol. Is that true? Is that what you want for them? How will our children believe us when we tell them about the dangers of alcohol if we're drinking ourselves? When they're eventually when they're eventually told it's addictive and can rob you of your memories and health, they're going to worry about us. Or they won't believe the facts because mom and dad wouldn't drink if it was really that dangerous. I remember learning how cigarettes cause cancer and being terrified for my parents and the people I cared about who smoked. Each of these ACT technique chapters are trying to undo some subconscious belief you adopted growing up. Are you unknowingly setting your own kids up to have the same misguided beliefs about alcohol? Okay, let's talk about the external evidence and what's actually happening in your body. When I first started drinking, it was a fun social experience, but over time, it turned into something I felt I desperately needed, especially after my second son was born. It was a stressful time in my life when I was traveling for work every other week. I felt guilty because I wasn't home, and when I was home, my husband worked long into the night after the kids were in bed. Wine was more than just a fun way to relax, it became my friend and ally. It wasn't something I wanted, it was something I thought I needed. Here's the thing, it wasn't my fault. And if you're in the same boat, it's not your fault either. Your body is trying to help you survive. Dr. Kevin McCauley has spent his career studying the brain science behind addiction. And he talks about something called the hedonic system. It's the part of our brain that pursues pleasure as a means of survival. Remember that your brain is always seeking survival above everything else. And interestingly, intense stress can be seen by your brain as a serious threat. Here's how it works. Your hedonic your hedonic system runs off a baseline reading. In times of severe stress, the baseline goes up, and things that used to be pleasurable, like taking a walk or reading a book, don't cut it anymore, and you need something more to lower your stress levels. And that means you're more likely to reach for alcohol or another addictive substance to relieve the stress. By drinking to relieve stress from parenting or anything else, you've literally rewired your brain to believe that it's the only way you can survive it. You're stuck in the pitcher plant. People will say, just stop drinking for heaven's sakes, you're about to lose your kids. But it's not that simple. Your evolutionary mind now overrides your common sense. Survival trumps all, and your brain equates alcohol with survival. You literally cannot resist when you get to this point. Your brain tells you that you actually need it to survive. Throughout history and in all parts of the world, people handle parenting just fine without alcohol. So we're not born with this need to drink to handle stress. We're conditioned over time to believe it. All the jokes and social media memes we read and share are sending the message loud and clear. Our own parents might have perpetuated the message. We're telling ourselves We can't handle it. We're not resilient enough. We're weak. When we do that, we're giving our power away to alcohol. But before you come down on yourself, like I know I did, please remember we're all doing the best we can and making the best decisions we know how to make with the information we have. Until you read this chapter, maybe the only information you had was a funny joke you heard or your experience with that. Until you read this chapter, maybe the only information you had was the funny joke you heard or your own experience that dealing with the kids is easier when you drink. But now you know the truth. You've been fed false information. You've been tricked into thinking that alcohol makes life simpler, when in fact it's the opposite. You now have new information. You understand what's happening in your hedonic system. You're aware of what your drinking is doing to your kids, and you are making a great new choice. As you take this 30-day break from alcohol, you have the opportunity to become more mindful and to decide whether you want to go a different direction. So do the best you can with this new information. Turn around. The opposite of I need a drink to handle my kids or I'm a better parent when I drink is I don't need a drink to handle my kids or I'm a worse parent when I drink. Come up with as many ways that you can add with as many ways that you come up with as many ways as you can that the opposite is as true or truer in your life than the original belief. Made it through. It's a heavy one. That's a heavy one when we're thinking about our kids and our parenting. And I know any parent only wants to be the best that they can, right? It's heavy. It's tough. And like she said, like we're doing an amazing thing just by breaking habitual patterns and being more mindful and educating ourselves. So, and that's what the alcohol experiment is all about. So, I hope you're doing well. Congratulations on 2 weeks sober. We're halfway through already. That's amazing. I'll see you tomorrow for day 15, which is called Social Life and Dating. I'll see you then. Take good care of yourself. Bye.